Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity and Love, incredible experts the world over with fabulous insights. They've usually been through their own personal journey of transformation or the usual unique life path, but they've been paying attention more than most of us. And the reason for this is they've turned around then and decided to give service to others, which makes them very special indeed. We've had every type of expert, it feels like, from all walks of life be on the show. A White House physician to the US president, the youngest Delta Force operator ever to be admitted, happens to be a naturopath on the side, just so you know. And then also healers, near-death experiencers, scientists, professors, psychotherapists, and so on. Today, coming to us from Massachusetts, absolutely a well-known, acclaimed name, whether she knows it or not, but she's in demand. She's been all over the place, been at all the institutes giving doing workshops, speaking engagements, and so on. She's an author, positive psychologist, leadership consultant, been in a lot of boardrooms, but she's also been by a lot of bedsides, helping people as they are passing. And so she's got a ton of experience, a lot of depth. I'd like to welcome Maria Sirois to the show. I always have a trouble, even though I spent a year in France and I do speak some French, I always have difficulty with the R, so I apologize ahead of time. Maria, great to see you again. Thank you so much for being on the show. How's life these days?
Thank you for the invitation, Michael. Life these days is everything. It's heavy, dark, sad, confusing, complicated, beautiful, wonderful, amazing, miraculous, all of it.
Okay, well, hey, this is going to be a lot like the normal interviews that you're doing, but I wanted to start off with one big question for you. You've been through a lot. Your personal journey has had a lot of color, contrast, and you've done a lot for a lot of other organizations and people. In this chapter right now of your life, this stage of your life, what are you most grateful for? Is it your flexibility? Is it your resilience, versatility? What are you most thankful for at this stage in your life?
Right now, I am most thankful for the fact that I have had uh, inspiring people around me who pivot consistently toward kindness, who consistently choose in complicated, difficult moments, kindness to self and kindness to others.
Talk to us about that a little bit more. That kindness to self, that kindness to others, is that one of the highest vibrations man can do for fellow man?
I think, between kindness and generosity, you've pretty much hit the high note in terms of the best of ourselves. So in any difficult moment, we have an option to choose to show up in some way or another, right? We cannot control the circumstances, but we can often choose how we respond. And over again, I've witnessed that kindness creates a spaciousness in which people can feel heard and seen and valued and build bridges between seemingly opposite, sets of understandings or perspectives. But it also is the territory where healing happens most easily. So when we are in personal pain, to be kind to ourselves and pivot to the choices that enable us to recover and have a sense of respite. And at the end of the day, Michael, I don't think any of this works. The planet, the animal kingdoms, the spiritual kingdoms, none of it works. People, if we cannot find ways to be kind to each other.
So let's go sort of the eternal question of all of man. We've only been asking this for thousands of years. Is love the fabric of the universe?
It is the thing that holds everything together. And it is the thing I think we most long for, even in our most distorted behaviors. I think there is a distorted seeking for love, for connection.
Maria, all your life, you've been connected to love. For most of us, we fall out of that flow at some point, our teenage years, college. Sometimes we go decades at a time. It could be trauma, keeps us locked up, shut tight like an oyster. You're different. You've got a super skill. It's called paying attention. And it's all that matters in one sense. Can you talk to us about that in your life?
That was present to me as a way of being from a very early age. I'm remembering now, as you were talking, a moment at the age of 10 or 11, riding my bicycle to some fields and stopping and just being completely in awe of the sky, the grasses, the weeds, the flowers, the birdsong, the bicycle, me on the bicycle, and feeling there's this enormous fabric of connection between all of the elements, and this profound pain going back to, my home and experiencing not that, experiencing, just normal sibling stuff or set the table, do the dishes, not the epiphanic appreciation of the energy of around us. And I was always seeking those moments.
Mm. Okay. Hey, when did this all kick in that you realized there was something called either spirituality or something beyond our regular thinking, our regular societal norms? When did that interest, when did your reading kick in? When did you start taking classes, other people's workshops? How did it all come about?
Yeah. I think it really began as a sort of antithesis. I was raised in the Catholic religion, which just did not make sense for me as a young girl. I left that religion emotionally and spiritually when I was 17, and and began actively seeking and studying. And in fact, I wrote my psychology Psy.D dissertation on the integration of spirituality and psychotherapy. So I spent my 20s, reading, exploring, getting readings, tarot card, just everything, learning what I could.
Where did you travel in those years or since then?
Very little travel in my 20s. I didn't have the resources to travel, or the imagination. I should say, I also didn't have the imagination to travel. I did one trip to Greece, and gosh, I don't remember, just local places. But the notion of opening up to the world really occurred more in my 30s. And then it began to, Sedona, Albuquerque, California, Hawaii, places that are known to have energy fields that you can access.
Tell us about Albuquerque, if you could, just for a second.
So a dear friend of mine moved to Albuquerque from Boston, and I went to visit her. And um, I had a couple of moments with conversations with shamans who were working there. But even more than that, I visited some of the indigenous people's caves up in the mountains and had this profound sense of incredible longing to know more, and also, to contribute to the sort of healing of those wounds in some way, to like pay homage and respect. And um, that awakened me to an appreciation that the vibration or the form of spirit that may be most comfortable or most familiar to me may not be the vibration or form that is known to others, and that still they are not disconnected.
Okay. You've got a very strong, I don't know how to call this, a societal biography. You've been all over. You're faculty on a bunch of places in the past, currently. Can you paint that picture for us a little bit? Again, another one of those words I have to pronounce correctly, but Kripalu and the Whole
Yeah.
Being Institute and other spots. Can you just touch upon where you've lectured, whether it was 10 years ago, maybe there are no more, where you've currently lectured, maybe in the last 10 years, where you're currently affiliated? Can you paint that picture for us?
So I work across the globe. I do have a sort of beautiful standing relationship with Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health here in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, an incredible venue. I do quite a bit of online teaching through Whole Being Institute and consulting through wholeleader.com. That's the leadership development consulting. And the work has taken me, to Brazil, Australia, Switzerland, London, um, Canada, just some wonderful places wherever there's an opportunity. I think, Michael, if I can context my work in the world, it's to cultivate hope. And one of the ways I am able to help facilitate the presence of hope, even in the darkest moments, like you mentioned, the bedsides of the dying, is my capacity to pay attention and be open to spirit at the same time, to have a psychological understanding and allow mystery to have its way. Both are available at the same time.
Have you not experienced almost not growth, expansion never stop, but have you not almost experienced like a gajillion different types of personalities and people, from shut down, closed trauma to wide open, ready for you, and everything in between? How do you handle this per assignment, per task? how do you prepare? What can you share with us as basically a healer? Do you taste the air before you walk into a boardroom and get a game plan ahead of time? Do you trust that you're going to get good guidance in the first 5 seconds walking in?
I think two things have really sustained me throughout all the years of speaking. I've had moments where I absolutely felt like something was, coming in through, and I was using metaphors and sentence constructions that I hadn't used before. It's like, that's fascinating. Um, and the other thing is that a deep devotion in my own heart, this is sort of just a value that I've committed to, is that to make the working assumption that everybody in the room matters, even the most, grumpy, cantankerous, defensive person has shown up. And if they're there, then there's got to be a channel to learn together. And the only way that I can in integrity show up for that opportunity is to treat them as if they matter, even if I profoundly disagree with them. So I live in a place in my work of paradox, Michael, where we can be broken and whole at the same time, defensive and open, invited in and shut out. Like all of that can be held. We are capable of holding astonishing complexity. And that enables me to be in the presence of all these different personalities.
Hmm. Okay. When did you have to hide your super skills in terms of intuition, the flow, nature, harmony with all? When did you have to hide it? Was it just during grad school? Was it a little bit after that, private practice? When did you also just not care anymore and you were like, I'm me, and people
Yeah.
need to accept me as me, and I do a really good job at me?
I had this moment in graduate school. It was my second year in training, and I had a mindset that I was always confused by, why am I feeling things that other people aren't feeling, or why did I say something and then there was dead silence, as if it just didn't land at all. And for most of my life, up until the early 30s, my working assumption was that I was wrong. I either didn't understand something or I was feeling too much. Lots of people told me I felt too much when I was young. And then somewhere around the age of 30, I was just in a regular graduate school class. I said something, dead silence, crickets, nobody's responding. I thought, okay, that my first thought was there. I must be stupid. And then almost immediately after that, a thought came in that was like, maybe you are a little far ahead of them. And whether that's true or not, it just opened up this possibility that maybe in some moments I know things differently, or know maybe a little more than the room in the moment. And that was stunning. That was stunning. I remember working with that for about a year.
Okay, we're going to come back to this in a second, but tell us about like your latest book. And there's one that I know of that's Happiness After Loss, but talk to us about what products you have out there that people can check out.
So yes, I have a book, A Short Course in Happiness After Loss, and it's really the integration of how we find our way resiliently back to a stable new normal after we've had excruciating loss, death, but also exile, betrayal, other kinds of losses, loneliness. Um, the book I'm writing, I have just finished writing and will be published within the year, is about the character quality of appreciating beauty, natural beauty, moral goodness, and excellence, and how when we elevate that attention within ourselves and within others, not only do we create pathways of kindness and love and awe, moments of wonder, etc., it also inspires pro-environmental behavior. So we actually take care of the things we find beautiful, and we take care of the energies that inspire us, like excellence in music or art or dance or spirit. And we are protective of them, and it triggers action tendencies to actually steward and provide safety and space for them. So this is my contribution to climate change and the global distress that we are under. To elevate this particular strength in any one individual or community setting will be beneficial.
Okay, resiliency, that's another one of your areas. Can you share with us maybe one of the first dozen times you were by someone's bedside, the experiences you personally were having. You can make it abstract if you want, but there's something about transitioning over. It's really complex in all of our Western minds, but in a way, it's, if you quote the movie Peaceful Warrior, and maybe it's a deleted scene, the Mr. Miyagi figure, if it's Karate Kid, it's an adult Karate Kid film. It's Nick Nolte playing the character of a gas station attendant. They've nicknamed him Socrates because he's filled with philosophical wisdom, but he describes death as really almost no different than puberty, going through the transformation of puberty. Just he adds a few other phrases in there. Can you talk to us about the concept of dying, how the Western mind, we're just kind of not there yet, and what you see in that whole transformation?
I understand it as a kind of continuum of experience, the soul or the spirit sort of shedding the body, but sort of maintaining a kind of energy, if you will. And when we can experience it as a kind of continuum, even in limited form, such as I may be dying and I might have an opportunity to connect to others who have died before, or I'll be in the presence of my ancestors or my tribe again, or even my, the spirit of my pets. When we can hold it as a continuum and not as an end point, for most of us, not everyone, but for most of us, we are able to relax a little more into the process of physically letting go. And there's a soothing and a healing that can happen there, as well as a kind of gentle anticipation about what might be possible. When some people, I've certainly been at the bedside of some people who believe that we have one life in this form and that's it and it's done and I did the best I could, and they feel complete and they don't have that sense of continuum. And that's always fascinating to me, because I so appreciate that sense of just settling into the moment and letting the life you've lived be the life that was, and that your legacy, if you will, or your offering has been your life. There's no need to offer more. So they're fascinating ways of being present to the dying. And I think, Michael, it's never my job, whether I'm there as a psychologist or a hospice volunteer or a friend of the family, it's never my job to presume that I know better or have truth with a capital T, but more here is where that deep presence and that deep listening and that deep attention and openness is really the best gift we can give.
Have you had moments where you've felt it even more deeply than the usual feeling that you feel being by somebody's bedside, and seeing light, auras, the life force, consciousness itself? Have you had that happen on rare occasion, or is it always happening for you all day long and you're basically like, make it stop, make it stop? Where are you on the seeing light side of things as well?
Yeah. It doesn't happen all the time. And often it's unexpected. What I experience, Michael, so sometimes I do see auras and sometimes I do have that sense of, oh, like over my shoulder, there's another being right there. Or I'll hear something and be like, oh, that's coming. That's not coming from Starbucks, right? And I'm just, feeling a little choked up right now. The other experience that I've had a few times is spending time with someone and who's been ill, and knowing this is the last moment. They will pass within a few days. I can just see the absence of the energy, the absence of the aura, in some cases the dissolution, even though the person is still here, the dissolution of the entity, if you will.
And not to get too deeply into it, but whatever this question is, it is. Do you also get to see the releasing of the emotional baggage, so that there's a lot of thought forms, there's a lot of thinking, a lot of knowing that precludes possibility or just love? And do you get to see that? Is that an earlier part of the stage when they keep letting go? Or is it something that's at the end? It just depends.
It really depends, because some people don't ever let go, and it's excruciating to watch them, the body try to and while emotionally the heart is so locked into a kind of desperate struggle to stay alive, that's excruciatingly painful. I do often in those I often find myself, praying for grace. Let there be grace, let there be mercy, let there be grace in this room. And however that might show up. And sometimes it shows up as the right amount of morphine by the kind night nurse. Sometimes it shows up as my I had one of my aunts, just as she was just, I think 2 days before she died, was pretty clear. She was in her kitchen making sauce for all of us. She wasn't, she was in a hospice unit in a hospital, but she was pretty clear. And that was soothing to her. She was, making us one last meal. And so may the grace of the vision, of the imagination, of the distortion, it doesn't matter. There's a grace in that. So, yeah.
I'm going to light some sage for us and blow you sage. From Texas to Massachusetts, this is a staple of the show. People only have to let go a little bit. It just means no thinking for 2 minutes. Ask the universe, ask angels to get you out of your head into your heart. As I light sage, if you've ever been hypersensitive, good on an athletic field in the flow, great artist, musician, or you just know how to read a book, but maybe 10 in a row for 7 hours curled up somewhere by a fireplace, that's the letting go degree of difficulty here. You'll actually maybe taste the sage, but hopefully not. Smell the sage. And it doesn't matter if it's 2028, you're in Germany, New Zealand, Japan. Just make sure you really put in a good comment if it is 2028. Do a lot of emojis and like, share, what else? Subscribe to do the whole YouTube plugging thing. And Maria's been an awfully good sport for coming on. She's absolutely fantastic at what she does. She radiates. That's going to be the next question is, how does she keep it all together? What's her secret? But first, sage, are you already getting the sage? Because you were getting it the second I started lighting it. Can you
Yes, I was.
Yeah, what are you getting?
Oh, the smell, just the smell. Yeah.
And then people can settle for a triple tiered. We're going to make up a dessert, tiramisu, that instead of just being a tiramisu, it's triple decker and it's got no calories. So obviously linear is sage, of course. And through 2 screens, and it doesn't matter where you are. Why not? Catch flowers as well. Ask the universe to bring you flowers suddenly, something you haven't had in a while. Wisteria, lavender, honeysuckle are obvious ones, but we just had a South African catch. I can never pronounce anything. Protea, the flower of the country there. And so she was loving that in Nicaragua at the time. So sage, flowers, and if you want ocean as well, you're in Massachusetts, technically landlocked, a lot of lakes and stuff, but I went to high school in Massachusetts. Back to you. What are you getting? Anything else? Any water, any ocean, any flowers?
Oh, yeah, peony.
Okay. And now I'm going to stub this out before fire alarms go off and so on. Okay, let's back up. Do angels exist?
I think so.
Okay. How about our loved ones? Are they, most of them, not the one who died in an FBI shootout trying to rob a bank yesterday, but I mean, they give them time, they can reconcile. Do our loved ones exist most likely?
Yep.
Pets?
I think so. Whenever I see my father, he's with the dogs. Like,
Aw. Can you share with us one of the times early on where you're like, whoa, I'm not sure that just happened. You close the bedroom door and you're like, open it up again. And you're like, yep, that happened. What was one of the early ones where you're like, I got to get used to this?
So I woke up in the middle of the night one night. I was in my early 30s. Woke up in the middle of the night one night, and there was a black cat on the end of the bed, and it was not friendly. It was not coming to be pet. It was like a sign, and I was trying to shoo the cat away, and I so startled my boyfriend that he woke up and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I couldn't talk, and I was like, and I knew this was a profound presence. Okay, so 2 days later, we have a dinner party. I've told no one of this story except my boyfriend. Just it didn't go anywhere, right? We're having a dinner party. I'm cleaning the dishes, got friends in the apartment who they had never been there before. And one of the guys comes up to me, we're doing the dishes together, and he goes, "I didn't know you had a black cat." And I was like, we don't have a cat. And he goes, "Yeah, no, there's a black cat in the other room." I'm like, "Yeah, there's a black cat." And I was like, so, okay. Okay. But auras I saw early on, I saw in my 20s. And it didn't feel wrong. That never felt wrong. That just felt like, wow, there's a lot of color around that person.
But I never get to ask the next question, which is, did you put it to good use? And I mean this in a practical sense. Was it a good way to choose a thesis advisor? Or did you use the feeling, the flow, the force from Star Wars to help decision making a little bit?
Yeah. Once I did a bunch of therapy in my mid-20s and got my like crazy quiet enough, what I noticed is that if you're here's what I was able to say to myself: if you're that highly intuitive, use it. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. So, am I actually energetically comfortable in the room with this person? Otherwise, I'm not going to work for them, or I'm not going to be their grad student, or I'm not going to choose them as an advisor. So really using the energy field awareness, whether I saw an aura or not, whether they, verbally made sense to me right away or not, but like, could my body want to be in that energy? That was the barometer.
Hey, I got to do a quick side story, so forgive me for this. 30 seconds here. I was a sophomore at Middlebury College. This is going to be 87, 88, something like that. And I've got an internship in an ad agency downtown. If anybody knows how small this town is, there's a little waterfall right in the middle of things. And there's a old supply area the sports store across the street used to use, but now it's an ad agency. And I'm down there on my first minute being in the place. And I just said out loud, do you ever have any ghosts here? And the whole place stops. The owner has to pull me aside and he's like, look, we just had an exorcism here a week earlier. I need to know if you see anything. And there's a lot more detail on that front. But so, they kept me as an intern and I made it through the first day. So I'm there like 4 days later, something. It wasn't a long internship or anything, but it's a C-shaped office and I'm in the back area and I don't think there's anybody around, but I saw a cat and they don't have a cat, but I saw a cat and it goes into this giant bathroom that has like no supply closets or anything. That's just extra space. It's an odd space. And I go running in to see where the cat went and there's no cat. And that would be my parallel little experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so file that away. You've had a lot of those experiences all along. Can you you don't need an official number or anything like that, but can you just say out loud, you've had a lot of these experiences, you've gotten comfortable with it. And then can you explain how it's just added to your ability to help others?
I've had a lot and I find them unpredictable. I don't, sort of know when it's going to happen, and I don't try to force it, to make it happen. How it has helped me help others. I think, I'm here to offer, it's clear I'm here to offer a certain body of knowledge or a certain lane of expertise in positive psychology, in the field of resilience, in navigating the difficult moments in life. And as I stay open to mystery, to synchronicity, to the inexplicable, the more my attunement to the audience and my attunement to the person becomes finer and more likely a useful or constructive experience. So, I used to worry that I didn't know enough to teach the audience, and now my concern more is, am I just human and open enough to allow whatever information needs to be shared to find its way through me?
Would it be fair to characterize the current stage in life as continued growth and learning and expansion? You're wide open.
Yes. And I had this epiphany recently I wanted to share with you. When I turned 60 a few years ago, I spent some time reflecting on the 3 biggest decisions of my life. And I decided that the biggest decision of my younger life was choosing to leave the Catholic Church, and in the sense of giving myself permission to know where I felt at home and where I didn't feel at home, and to find the spirit home that made the most sense to me. The second big decision I made was to choose happiness over despair, to learn and study and understand how we can shape our brain and our choices and our relationships in a healthier, more positive direction. And then the third decision I made later on in life, in my 50s, was just to assume, like, what it would be like to assume that the universe wants me exactly as I am. Like, they needed, a 5'3" former athlete who likes jigsaw puzzles and sea glass, they and loves pop culture. Like they need that. Like universe needs that, right? So when I turned 60, I thought, okay, those were the three big decisions that opened up so much for me. What's the big decision now? And it became so clear that I've got, let's say, at the most 3 decades left. That's it.
Or 4.
Or maybe 4.
Yeah.
But 3, 3.5. And what hit me was, Michael, the choices I make in these next 3.5 decades are absolutely determinant of how I experience life after this life.
Mm.
In other words, the choices I make to cultivate destructiveness or constructiveness, generosity or selfishness will inform what happens to my spirit after. And so my obligation is not just to the planet of the moment or humanity in this moment, but it is also to the future entity that is me, or the configurations that are possible for me, in order to have the futures that then can return and benefit further generations. So I have an obligation in my language to die well, having lived well.
So 1 + 1 = 111. Got it. Let's ask a completely unrelated question. Do you ever call yourself a healer?
No,
And
no.
so if you were to be some sort of a healer and hang out a shingle that way, well, I mean, again, looking forward into 3, 4, 5 decades, what would you make that look like if you could choose some sort of a healing role? Would you
Yeah,
choose this type of background, that type of background?
if I were to call myself anything, it would be the storyteller.
Ooh.
It's through my stories that I think healing occur, the most obvious healings occur. And so it would be a cottage with an open door and a rocking chair and a very comfortable furniture, nothing fancy or formal, tons of flowers, lots of light, and just, the tea kettle is on and the brandy's on the sideboard, and we're just going to tell stories.
And a big YouTube audience. Sorry about that. So I just wanted to ask about, I've got a phrase for you to buy time so you can think about the response here. You talked about storytelling, and we'd love to hear a really good story. And there's no pressure because, millions are going to be watching this in about 7 years, this show that you're taping right now. And so here's a phrase just to buy time for your favorite story to share. You can be happy now in this very moment for no reason whatsoever. What's your reaction to that before we get to the story? You can be happy now in this very moment for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, happiness is a choice. It's really a choice. And it lives, I have that lives so side by side. Joy and despair, happiness, they live so side by side. Have you ever seen those photographs where like half a face is shadowed and the other half is lit? And the line is so narrow between them. And it is exactly that. I mean, the first of all, the line is our device, a human device. The joy and they are no different than the bees and the flowers having a sort of mutual symbiotic relationship. Joy, despair.
Flip the pancake and the despair becomes joy.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it was Big Mary said once, and this is like since 2014, I'm gonna like paraphrase, love is everywhere, open your eyes to find love. And I would even substitute the word love for joy. So joy is everywhere, a constant. Open your eyes to find joy. Good luck with that. We got something called thinking and knowing something that precludes possibility, but welcome to being human. Okay, we've bought you enough time. What's that story you want to share with us? The storytelling skills you talked about.
When I was 8 years old, I decided to test God. I was raised in a family, in a universe where my understanding was that, God was kind of mad at people most of the time, and people were kind of bad to each other and had a lot of sin and darkness. And we had to confess all the time, right? And cleanse. And I actually didn't believe that. I actually believed that people were good. So I was going to test the universe and test God. So I took my favorite bracelet, probably my only bracelet at the time was this little fake kind of marcasite bracelet, but it didn't have any gems, but it was faceted so it could catch light. And on my way to school, there is a rock wall that lines the street. And there was a stone on the rock wall that did have like mica in it. So it radiated light. And I put the bracelet on the stone. And I said to myself, that bracelet's going to still be there when I get back from school. And I'm going to prove that people are good. And therefore that God is wrong, that people are bad and are filled with sin. So I go to school, have the day, I run back to the street. And of course, bracelet's gone. But what happened next was what stunned me. I stood there expecting to feel a wave of sorrow, and I didn't. What I felt instead was, oh, I don't need to conduct any experiences. What I already know what I need to know. Because perhaps the child who took the bracelet had never had anything that was filled with light before. Perhaps the mother who took the bracelet was bringing it home to give to the child. Perhaps the young boy who took the bracelet thought, oh my God, here's something cool that I've never seen before. Perhaps, and immediately I could come up with 700 stories that would demonstrate the value of someone taking that bracelet out of a sense of experiencing the good side of life or the positive or the light, or to pass that goodness on. And so in that moment, I realized, you know what? I don't need to be a scientist any longer. The evidence is in me. I know this. Thank you, rock. Thank you, bracelet. I'm going to go play kick the can.
I've got another one of those little passages to read. It's going to be like 3 sentences. And again, get your reaction to this, but in a way, it's kind of what we were just talking about. Okay. Sometimes the person next to you or a stranger just needs validation via love and compassion. A smile changes any moment. So too does laughter or a few kind words. Be compassion to all. Do it. An angel said that.
I think that is the blood of the universe right there. Compassion and kindness, the simple things, the small kindnesses, the tip of the hat, the gentle wave. I'll hold the door. I'll clean that up for you. With the absence of that is violence and despair.
The same angel once put life into a metaphor, an undergraduate degree before you get the graduate degree. And the undergraduate degree was just understanding the difference between here and here. If we call it thinking, fear, stress, worry, reacting, resisting, rejecting, knowing to the preclusion of possibility, a lot of the currency we trade in today versus just whatever you want to call this, awareness, limitlessness, timelessness, love, possibility, joy, some of your words. Once you have that, you're ready to get on with your graduate degree, which he described as your unique life path and allowing the universe to help you more get going and living and loving and allowing more. Can you talk to us more about that as your own personal experience, but also in a way, isn't that what you're teaching everybody?
I think my actual teaching, like the language I use and the data I share and the stories I integrate, is about helping people first align their thoughts and mind and their behaviors and action with values that are generative, values that benefit them, benefit the team that they're on, benefit the community, the enterprise, the people they belong to. And I do think that is foundational. It's foundational to being resilient. It's foundational to being the better parts of ourselves alive more often. And it's foundational to contributing to the world. As that kind of alignment happens, that congruence between thought and heart and behavior and values and how we show up in the world, I feel like that then another door kind of open, another possibility becomes available to us, where paradox is much more present. It's like I can strive toward accomplishment, achievement, a goal, direction, dream, and settle in and just be present to the moment and appreciate. I can I can be a doing being and a being at the same time. And when we can live in paradox, when I can accept that, joy and darkness are this close, that I'm filled with frustration and I can continue to be compassionate to others. When we can live in paradox, that's when there's so much more room for the infinite to show up, for the mystery to be present. I can be lecturing and keynoting in front of, C-suite executives and feel like, my spirit guide is right on my shoulder and be like, oh, you wanted to show up here. Okay, welcome. Ride the wave with me. Let's see what happens.
Have you had one of those moments you're walking down the street, a complete stranger says something, it's just what you needed to hear, you turn around, they're gone? Anything like that you can share that's serendipity?
Yes. So, oh God, I haven't told this story in a long time. Thank you for bringing it back. There used to be, I used to work in Boston, and there used to be an airline called People's Express. Flies you down to New York on the hour, flies you back on the half hour. And that's how we commuted. We commuted to New York all the time. And so I'm doing that with a colleague of mine. We're going to see our client in New York City. We get on the subway train. We're headed into, the next couple stations. Train stops dead. This is way before 9/11. So it's not like we were terrified, but it's dark. No one knows what's going on. 17 minutes. It's counted on my watch. 17 minutes go by, way before cell phones, right? Looking at my watch, I'm in my 20s, 17 minutes goes by. Suddenly the lights come on, train moves to the next station, no explanation. Okay. But because we had sort of been through a thing together, the people in the car were a little kinder to each other. Like, people kind of held the sliding door for the people who were struggling to walk. My colleague and I were waiting for the car to empty out to get out ourselves. And there's about 3 of us left in the car. This is the final stop, right? And a young boy stands up, crosses the threshold to go out into the platform, pivots, turns around, looks me dead in the eye, and goes, sometimes it takes a while to find the joy.
Oh.
And then leaves. And like the 5 or 6 of us that are still in the car, like, did you hear that? Did you see that? Was that real? And they're like, no, that was a boy, and he was talking right to you. Did you know him? Like, and then when I step out, he's gone. Like, I can't see him anywhere. I was like, oh, okay. I think I was 24 that year.
Do I have permission to put a photo of an angel named Joy up? And you can privately ask her who it was. You don't have to share the answer out loud, but you can at least catch a flower smell, put your palm up and feel the vibe. We'll just do a 10-second thing. It's what we do in a lot of the shows. No one's ever required to do anything. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Here's Joy. And she's a light energy, loving angel. I don't know how else to explain it. Ambassador, communicator. If anybody wants to put their hand out, feel the vibe on your palm, just feel a little sparkle. You can privately ask her who that was, get the answer, just say, got it. That's good enough.
Got it.
Good. And then does she have a reminder for us all about joy?
It is your inheritance.
That's beautiful. Do you want one more figure? If you did, would you want a Native American chief? Would you want Mary? Would you want Buddha? Who would you want to have just put up in front of you? Another angel?
Native American, please.
Okay. I've got Dolknife and Red Shirt or Geronimo. I can do all 3 one at a time. It'll be older Geronimo, but how about, is it okay to do 3?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dolknife, wisdom with some humor, unconditional love, spirit guide. Anybody at home wants to catch one of those 50 sacred scents? Juniper, sweetgrass, sage, tobacco, desert piñol. You get the idea. What are you catching now? And if anybody needs to turn up the volume, breathe more through the mouth, like 1 millimeter open, like you're in a yoga class with a really mean instructor. Let the shoulders go up and down.
I'm getting Northern Territories pine.
Oh my God. I don't even know what those are, but I like it. That's awesome. Okay. Catch some wisdom from him. And then if always got a little bit of humor too. His original name was Morningstar, then later officially Dolknife Cheyenne. And what's he have as a reminder for us all?
We have no idea how much spaciousness there is in time. Don't be so bound by time.
And that spaciousness word is it's what you, again, forgive me for putting any words into your mouth, but you teach or you cultivate. You cultivate spaciousness. And I had never heard the word until today. So spaciousness, I love it. Here's red shirt, gentlest mom in the world, not a manly description. Lakota Sioux, compassion, compassion, compassion. Anybody in a pinch, bind, pickle, divorce, job layoff, health crisis always gravitates to him. Wearing U.S. presidential medal, he and Geronimo, day after the photo was taken, think Teddy Roosevelt, White House, Pennsylvania Ave, horseback parade.
Mm.
But this one you probably should be feeling a lot.
Oh gosh, I'm seeing fields of marigolds, just radiant fields of flowers, abundance, light, blessing. It's a blessing. He's offering us a blessing of the earth.
Oh, okay. And I have one more for you coming up. If you get one last reminder for us all from him while I'm pulling up a photo here.
Oh, here's reminders to seek peace inside, seek peace inside.
Brilliant. Last but not least, Geronimo, not formal, proper, yes, no, like the first two. More, yeah, nah, duh, you already know the answer. He's action, 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 dry wit, like a lightning bolt. He's the consummate, inner, fearless, peaceful warrior on everyone's team. Here's an older photo of him.
He looks like my grandmother.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I'll keep the camera steady. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah.
And he comes in before you can ask him a question, but before you can finish, he's already answering.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Do the thing. Do the thing you know you're supposed to do. Do the thing. Do the thing.
Do you want to take two steps, both of which will stay private with you? One represents expansion, one represents growth. It's the same thing. But one is get a massive compliment so you understand more about your past coming into this lifetime, and just get a massive compliment about following your unique life path. And just say, got it when you got it. Breathe through your mouth so you can really let it come into your energy field and get a compliment.
Got it.
Good. The second is gonna, might cook your goose a little bit, so be it. Again, you're not sharing anything with anybody. Here's something about your healing role, whether it's corporate consultant, boardroom advisor, by someone's bedside and everything else. And it's a word that can be difficult to get comfortable with because healer carries a lot of whatever with it. But here's something about your future healing path. And then if you need to get a publicist to come in to sculpt the part that you're allowed to say publicly, breathe through your mouth if you don't mind. Have him, you can even get it through pictures, visuals, film, what's ahead for you. So you get a little excited. You don't have to share any of this stuff. But
Okay.
the part that you could edit a little bit, what did you get that you could see perhaps dipping into a little bit more down the road to complement what you currently do, which is fantastic what you do now?
I just seeing much more work sort of out in the natural kingdoms, audiences outside, mountainsides, fields, sacred circles.
Outstanding in your field with sunflowers. I love it. Let's do this. I'm going to put up a background. I'll show you my light, energy, force, the Star Wars chakras, whatever. Tell us what you see. But if you're, again, no requirement to say anything out loud. This is a 5-second exercise. I'm borrowing from Celestine Prophecy, but I'm not, because we had a guest who was around in the 70s who was like, nah, they were doing this before that movie existed. And then in India, they do it this way. So you'll see a flow of light. It's just an excuse to tell a dad joke, really. And so here's the dad joke. I'm going to put my fingers up. People can see a flow of light. I've done this on lots of other shows. The dad joke is, where in a hospital is the worst place to play hide and seek? Where? In the ICU. Oh, you knew that one.
I knew that one.
Okay, a new one. No rabbits were harmed in this one. Why did the rabbit fall down that well?
Why?
He didn't see that well. And as you're laughing, you're officially letting go the whole way. You can't let go any more than when you laugh, breathe, smile, take a shower, read a book. What are you seeing as a flow of light between my fingers, or are you seeing it all over my fingers and hands too?
Yeah, it's almost like a teal kind of energy pulling between your fingers.
Darn, a lot of firsts today because I've never heard the word teal used before, and that would be one of my favorite. Aquamarine teal would be my favorites. Super groovy and cool. What else would you want to tell us? Because we're going to wrap up soon. We can keep going if you want, but rather have you back in July of 2025. So you've officially been invited on air here. You don't have to respond now. What would you want to just leave us with as a reminder in day-to-day living, daily living? The challenge, we're doing all this thinking, judging. We know what we know. This is going on overseas. We got this election coming up. It's this way, it's that way. How is it always like more love and what's available to us?
So I'm seeing energy in your mirror that's in over your fireplace there. So I was.
You want to see a couple angels standing there, you can. You can see Joy as a 28-year-old blonde, although she was brunette at a Meg Institute. Don't listen to me. Hollywood wardrobes are good. You can see full on. She'll be waving hi and she'll give you one more reminder and she'll be like, you got the clothes on this. You've done so many speaking engagements. You're literally like, if there was such a thing as a celebrity in the spiritual community industry, whatever we're supposed to call it, I would say that's you. Personally, I've seen your name forever, so I'm delighted to make your acquaintance.
Thank you. Not sure where to go with that. And what I'm seeing or what I'm sensing is the um the threading. So, you know, if we pay attention enough to go toward where love actually is, where, people's actions actually line up with what they say they feel about you, where people are in integrity with caring for you. If we just get a little bit better at paying attention to where love is actually showing up, um, it becomes a not just a fragile thread, but like a kind of ship rope, that you could really hold on to. And ironically, at the same time as we get better at that, we get better at being that for others, and they feed each other. So we don't have to participate in any big, complex, mysterious conversations. We just need to learn, like, if somebody's going to make you a cup of tea and it feels good to sit with them, like, do that more often. Go there
I
more.
love that. Oh my God, that was good. And you can, hey, I'm going to just do a public service announcement for angels. You can see them in full on human form. Let them open the door to your cellular phone service store, or you're running into the dry cleaner or just getting a cup of coffee at Starbucks, but you'll know they're going to look like crazy, sexy, really cool Latvians wearing clothes you don't recognize with sparkly eyes. And you're going to be like this as you're running into the Starbucks. That would be me. And they'll say just what you were saying at the cocktail party the night before, what the movie theme was the night before. And they might be like, what's the rush if you're like this? And they might use your first name as well, at which point, if it's me, I'm scrambled top to bottom and can't make a single sentence go together at all. But most people are mature adults watching, and you can sit there and say, do you have time for a cup of coffee, and do it. And we've had a guest, I won't say who, it doesn't really matter, but they got a half an hour with their guardian angel in human form, sparkly eyes, in California on a beach somewhere. So it's no limits in life. And how about you close us out with the concept of really if there are no limits in life, maybe there are really no limits. You knew it as a kid, maybe for 3 years in your 20s, and then stuff happened. Can you remind us about that concept of hope and coolness and sparkliness and all the Disney CGI stuff too?
Permission, full permission to be human in the ways that you're human, and full permission to be informed by things that are a little larger than human, and notice where those two come together for yourself. For me now, it's about literally walking in the assumption that those two are together all the time.
Maria, you are walking the sacred on your path for all of us. Thank you very much for being a guest on Angels, Positivity, and Love. It has been a total delight and treat to have you here.
Thank you.